Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Here we have it Monday morning, an action-packed first few hours of trading in the week, at least for the Bitcoin mining sector. We had most of the miners deep red to start the week. They've now reversed, and many of the miners we cover on the channel are in the green, with TeraWulf leading the pack in a big way, up in excess of 16% today on that HPC news anticipation in the market. We're going to be talking about that, plus a number of key catalysts coming up in the Bitcoin space, including the US presidential election, Bitcoin option trading, and of course ETF inflows over the last few days. We've also got a difficulty adjustment this week, just to name a few of the key topics that we're going to be discussing in today's podcast. Before we do though, take a second, smash the like button, feel free to subscribe, and let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about the mining space overall, your outlook for the final few months of 2024, and thoughts as we move into 2025. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, so that's right. Monday morning, a pretty interesting way to start the week for the Bitcoin mining stocks, Anthony. We have a number of catalysts we want to talk about in today's video. Some great visuals that you and I have been sending back and forth over the weekend as we normally do. But to start things off, we figured we'll go macro to micro here. Bitcoin price itself, Anthony, trading in excess of 69,000. Over the weekend. Now it's pulled back below 67,000. Obviously some difficulty for these miners with the headwind of Bitcoin price, not to mention the difficulty adjustment coming up tomorrow as well.
Yeah, so last night, late UK time, the Bitcoin price, rallied over 69,000. I was on a Spaces meeting with the likes of Mike Alfred and Bitcoin Mining Guy and Sebastian and Gary Cadone, and we were just chatting through. Looks like we're really into the bull run now, and but Bitcoin does what Bitcoin does, and a little bit of a pullback today. We had a great week last week, to be honest with you. So if it's going to pull back, it'll pull back a little bit. It certainly held these last 3 or 4 months in that range from about 54,000 all the way up to sort of 70,000. So we know it's in that. It's maintained that range there. We're just waiting for the next sort of big spike up. We could do with an all-time high, and people were predicting last night that could be imminently happening in the next week or two. So time will tell, but as quick as it goes down, it can go back up.
Yeah, it certainly can. A number of the catalysts we're going to talk about actually do predict something happening in the next few weeks, specifically around the US election timing, which I know we have some good visuals for, Anthony. Before we get into that, though, you had forwarded over this difficulty visual that we bring up quite often on the screen here as well, estimated to go up to all-time highs tomorrow, based on what we're seeing on the blockchain.
Yeah, so the difficulty changes every 2 weeks, and dependent on how long it takes to mine a Bitcoin, a block should take 10 minutes. If it takes less than 10 minutes, it means the difficulty needs to increase. If it takes over 10 minutes, it means that the difficulty is going to be made a little bit easier. So every 2 weeks, that adjustment's made. Now, at today, it's saying that the adjustment could be as high, as high as 4.5% from where it is at the moment. So that would take it to a new all-time high of 96.2 trillion. That means it's a challenge for Bitcoin miners in that they'll produce less Bitcoin with their hash rate. Now, the hash rate itself, we've seen has also been creeping up. If you look at the 7-day moving average for hash rate, it's now over 700, for the first time, heading towards 720. So, that's telling you that there's a lot more machines coming onto the network. We know that from the North American miners. Some of these miners have been putting machines on in their thousands in recent weeks. We saw the likes of CleanSpark and IREN and Riot increase big amounts of machines to get their hash rates up. Some of those hash rates were going between 5 and 10 hash rate literally over the last 5 or 6 weeks. So a lot of machines going online. That affects the global hash rate. But as we've seen the Bitcoin price sort of rally and the hash price increase to over $50 per petahash per day, that means that maybe some of the less efficient miners who have really, really cheap energy could have been coming back onto the network as well. So that's the impact that you have to deal with. You have, when Bitcoin price increases, you're going to have potentially some of the less efficient miners that you thought were leaving the network for good come back onto the network, because if you've got really cheap energy in some places around the world, people might be using stranded energy and literally not paying for it. And therefore, it really doesn't matter what type of machine you've got, you'll still make a margin if the energy is free.
Makes sense. Yeah, a bit of a double-edged sword there. And for anyone new to the Bitcoin mining space, you inherently would think Bitcoin price going up would be good for all miners. However, as you say, Anthony, that does attract more people to the pie, so to speak. Now, we're going to talk about a few reasons maybe these machines are being switched back on in terms of Bitcoin price. And as you just alluded to, Anthony, many of the analysts are thinking we may see fresh all-time highs, not only within this calendar year, but within the next few weeks leading up to the presidential election in the United States. So that's really the first catalyst I wanted to break down in today's video. Now, you sent over an interesting screenshot here, Anthony, showing the general election odds. This is as of the 19th of October. And what's interesting to me is really the disparity or discrepancy between these different sources. So if you look at bookies versus aggregators versus proprietary models, you get all the way from Trump losing with 46% all the way to Trump winning with 57.8%. Now, if we're going to play the game of averages here, Anthony, and we look at this consensus data, it does appear that Donald Trump has the edge at this point in time, or at least when this source pulled the data in terms of the upcoming election. Now, he's admitted and expressed a lot of interest in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrency, really supporting not only the ecosystem, but the adoption of crypto, even making reference to that US strategic reserve. RFK Jr. was also in Nashville, gave some very strong commentary about Bitcoin. He's obviously given his support behind Donald Trump. So a lot of people are thinking if they are successful, which a lot of polls are showing they will be or could be, this is going to be a strong, strong catalyst and may kick off the bull cycle here. So what are your thoughts on all of that, Anthony?
Yeah, or extend the bull cycle. I think we're already sort of effectively in the bull cycle now.
Sure.
This will be another catalyst to get it moving another pace up. In the same way that, as we've seen before in different catalysts, when Tesla bought Bitcoin in 2021, we saw the price spike and reach 59,000 and gain, 15, 20,000 literally a couple of days. This type of news story, if Trump wins the election, and you're quite right, most of the various providers have got Trump there winning considerably. I mean, the highest there is at 60 to 40. And if you look at the election prediction by Kalshi.com, they've got Trump at 57%, Harris at 43%. So, and that position has only improved over the last couple of weeks. So they were neck and neck at the beginning of October, but there's been a divergence from around about the 10th of October. So the last couple of weeks, we've seen that divergence now, and it looks like Trump is in the ascendancy. I also saw last night, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not, but Elon Musk has offered, I think it's like $1 million a day for voters in Pennsylvania to obviously, support Trump, and they've got a chance of winning $1 million. So he's going to donate $1 million a day till the election. So I'm not sure about how that ethically works out, but it's an interesting concept. I don't know if it comes under the buying votes, but this is America, and things happen in America. But yeah, very much an interesting concept from an outsider looking from the likes of UK.
I was going to say, I'll keep my comments to myself. What would a Canadian and a Brit know about US politics? But
Zero.
nonetheless, very interesting, Anthony, to say the least. And our friend Freedom by 40 actually put out a pretty cool visual as well, saying regardless of the outcome, it's really independent of where Bitcoin's going to go. And this visual shows, as you can clearly see, over the last 4 cycles, regardless of the election party that won. Very strong moves for Bitcoin up and to the right following that election date, which is now only a few weeks away. Now, interestingly enough, Anthony, from a political lens, we also got news out of Russia that they're actually decriminalizing and legalizing Bitcoin mining as well. So this plays into our game theory discussion about state or nation states starting to hold Bitcoin on balance sheet, starting to jockey for that global dominance of the cryptocurrency network or system, which we've talked about a lot. Bitcoin is by far the most dominant player in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen this is an about turn from Russia. We've also seen China maybe lessen their position on Bitcoin as well. I mean, bear in mind they actually banned it in sort of May, June of 2021, and they had 60% of the global hash rate at the time. So that really helped some of the North American miners. But yeah, if the likes of Russia and China start mining again, and this looks like a positive from the 1st of November, so literally just over a week's time. Just think of the amount of energy available in Russia, the largest country in the world, with a massive amount of resources, and not so much in terms of, not a big country in terms of population. So demand wouldn't be as high as maybe some of the smaller European countries with energy provided there. So they maybe have a really a good position on mining Bitcoin. China, we know, had the global hash rate effectively in the palm of their hand until the ban. So if they come online, that'll be another catalyst to move it up. But yeah, another positive news story, and shows you that Bitcoin doesn't stay within borders.
Yeah, Bitcoin does span across nations, states, and the entire world. Now, interesting, you pointed out the date on this one is November 1st. So, again, a very near term catalyst before that US presidential election. Now, the next one we want to talk about are the ETF inflows. HODL 15 has produced another one of these fantastic charts. This one highlights just last week's activity in terms of net inflows. I know you've done some math here for us, Anthony, but a lot of money coming in to these ETFs day after day after day. We talked about that snowball effect, the game theory, the FOMO that comes along with investing, and it looks like this snowball is starting to build.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a total there of $2.2 billion of inflows of Bitcoin into the ETFs just over the last 5 trading days. And if you look at that in terms of Bitcoin itself, the amount of Bitcoin mined in the last week, so 450 a day, times 7 is 3,150 Bitcoin. That's been mined in a week. But if you look at the amount of Bitcoin bought by the ETFs, it's 10 times the amount of production. So 31,438's been taken by the ETFs. That's 10 times last week's production. So how long can that actually carry on for? Because we know all the miners aren't selling Bitcoin, so they're having to go elsewhere. And this will only have an impact on the price of Bitcoin because not everyone wants to sell. There's a lot of people out there who are really into this for the long term, not in this for for a week or so. They're in it for the long term. I've been buying Bitcoin for the last 4 years and haven't sold any of my Bitcoin at all in that period, and I don't intend to sell in the near future either. It's a long-term investment for me, and if any one of these analysts who've put their targets out, it plays out, we're all in a good position. But at the moment, everything's been proved to be relatively accurate, and if we're in this bull cycle now, this next couple of weeks could be really good catalyst to get us into new territory. And what that will then do is that will send a message to all those people that aren't in Bitcoin that they may want to be in Bitcoin. That's what happens. Then you get the sort of like the people who have the fear of missing out on Bitcoin itself, wanting to get a piece of it. Like they did in 2021, but they left because the Bitcoin price is volatile, and you've got to understand, the dynamics of it. I mean, it did drop down to $15,500 all the way from 69,000. But today it's even though it's pulled back over the night, it's still around the 67,000 mark. So I firmly believe in the next few weeks we'll see another all-time high.
I do as well, Anthony. And we're going to come on to the miners in a second, really rebounding quite nicely this morning from the lows of opening. However, before we do, another almost under the radar catalyst came out last week, Friday, to kind of end off the week. The New York Stock Exchange has now opened up options trading for the spot Bitcoin ETF. So this comes after the approval from the SEC. This is a big catalyst in a number of ways, Anthony. This really opens up a lot of volume and a lot of optionality, obviously, and eyeballs into the mining space. Traditionally, obviously, with these spot Bitcoin ETFs, they go out, they purchase the Bitcoin, it acts as a one-to-one proxy. However, if you're able to trade options now on these spot ETFs, again, opens up a lot of flexibility in portfolios and gets a lot more traders involved, which brings liquidity and volume to these ETFs. Again, fairly big catalyst, not a lot of talk about this one. And within this small 2-3 week window, alongside some of these other catalysts we're seeing.
Yeah, time will tell. I'm not someone that does option trading in shares or Bitcoin, so it's not something I'm interested in. But there are a lot of people out there that do this in Bitcoin, Ethereum already. They look at the long and the shorts of and prepared to to gamble their Bitcoin on price action. Some have done really well out of it. There's some YouTubers in Dubai who've made this an absolute great career and living the high life over there. But for every one that's making money, there's thousands of people that aren't making money. So it's not. This is taking this to another level, but it will appeal to a certain type of investor, and so it's another product of the market. And as you say, it just means more. Effectively more adoption in Bitcoin, more opportunities to do something with Bitcoin in terms of trading.
Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. That's exactly right. Now, in terms of trading, we're going to bring up the mid-morning market update. So the tail of the tape this morning, most of these companies quite deep in the red to start Monday morning, really on the backs of exactly what you talked about, Anthony, pressure on Bitcoin price, pressure in terms of difficulty and some headwinds across the sector. However, one of these companies has really broken that trend, and that's TeraWulf in excess of 16%. They were up at one point this morning. I have my live screen up now. It looks like about 14.8% on the day. What's interesting here, though, no news has come out in relation to TeraWulf aside from some staffing appointments, which we have up on the screen here. So obviously they're bolstering their team, as we've seen a lot of these companies do. But really, this move is coming in anticipation of what a lot of people think is going to be a big HPC announcement. So I wanted to get your thoughts on TeraWulf. Then we'll talk about some of the other miners.
Yeah, I mean, we like TeraWulf. We've had Paul on the channel. We've had Patrick on the channel. I met with Amanda Fabiano, one of the directors in Amsterdam, last week. Had a brief chat with her. Yeah, this is good news. But I mean, what you got to think about is they've already told us in the last podcast that they're not looking to provide any growth, certainly to the market for Bitcoin mining next year. So they're going to achieve their 13 exahash by the end of the year. But the catalyst for them really is to utilize power to deliver some HPC, and they've got a small project that's come to fruition. They're now building a 20 megawatt facility. I think they've got a 50 megawatt facility that they're going to start after that there. They just extended the lease facility on Lake Marin. It only had 10 years left, which isn't really sufficient time. If you look at the CoreWeave Core Scientific deal, it's 12, 13, 14 years long, that with the various extensions, and then extensions to that deal on top of that there. So you want to go into HPC with a big customer, you want to make sure you've got 20, 30 years available to deliver that. And that's exactly what TeraWulf have done the last few weeks. They've extended that lease there, I think, to 35. years with an option to go to 80 years. So that basically puts it HPC proof in terms of land and power, and the share price itself very much indicates the fact that they have something imminently about to be communicated out, because in terms of them as a mining company, I don't see their market capitalization, 400 or 500 million more than IREN at the moment, which it is. And bear in mind, IREN are a 21 exahash Bitcoin miner compared to TeraWulf, who are operating, at 10 exahash. I don't see that valuation there. In fact, at the moment, IREN are getting better energy deals in Childress, Texas, compared to what TeraWulf are getting at their site, Lake Marion. Bear in mind, they both get cheap energy, but the Childress market option for IREN's really good at the moment. So all I can think about is that there's something imminently happening. The other thing that looked at today was the amount of volume in TeraWulf shares. So, I think it has over 40 million shares traded in literally the first 3 hours of trading today. So that tells you there's interest. We've talked about it on the podcast for a number of weeks, months now, the fact that we think one of the next two miners to announce has got to be CIFR or TeraWulf, and maybe this move in TeraWulf stock, and if you just look at the last 3 weeks, TeraWulf stock's up 30% alone. Year to date, the biggest mining stock up year to date of all the public miners as well. So I remember buying this stock at 52 cents in 2023 when people were sort of like looking the other way, and I thought, I like the team. We'd spoke with Patrick many times. We'd had Paul on the podcast. And yes, they have some debt, but they had a plan to get rid of the debt. And you know what? They did it quicker than they said they were going to do. So those people that have held out and holding TeraWulf, good luck and well done to keep in your portfolio, because I think you're going to do quite well out of it. So we just need to know that announcement shortly, because if the announcement doesn't come, then there's a problem. They haven't got the self-mining size and scale at the moment to sort of warrant that sort of valuation compared to peers. So there is a missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And that missing piece is a communication that they've landed some sort of a deal. And bear in mind, I'm also hearing that they're sort of having conversations that are lasting, hours and hours a day with potential clients, as are CIFR as well. So when you're having those conversations, the only outcome, really good outcome possible, is that they can both agree on how this goes forward. And I expect a positive update in the next few weeks from either of them.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like it may be coming this week. So many little breadcrumbs or indications that something's coming, but as you say, waiting for that final piece of the picture. I actually took a look at some of my Wulf shares in my different accounts, Anthony. This was the best I had in the 80 cent range. I was buying. This was one of my initial buys, and up, I think now over 600% on this position, still holding strong, and one of the top performers so far for my portfolio this cycle. Now, interestingly enough, you bring up CIFR as another contender in that HPC discussion next to TeraWulf. Actually, it looks like Hut 8's up quite a bit now as well, but next to TeraWulf, they're a top mover today as well. CIFR up 4.5%. Hut 8 actually up 6% now among about 5 or 6 of the other miners that have managed to turn green on the day. So very interesting to see some trading patterns here despite the weakness we've seen in the Bitcoin price. Any comments on Hut 8 or CIFR, Anthony, seeing the green shoots here, as you'd say?
I mean, potentially it's probably aligned to, when the Bitcoin price is going down, the market seems to be liking the HPC parts of to the miners. And so, TeraWulf are gearing up, CIFR are gearing up. We know Hut 8 have got land now ready to utilize for HPC hosting business. And, there's a number of miners that have basically pivoted themselves to this. In fact, there's only really CleanSpark haven't done anything yet. Riot have indicated they would if they got an offer for, and it was a good size offer, similar to like the CoreWeave deal. They could pivot some of their power at the Corsicana site, and who wouldn't do, but there's only CleanSpark who really kept away altogether and totally, stay pure play on the grounds that they feel that being in the Bitcoin mining space will offer more opportunities as the Bitcoin price rises. And, I hope they're proved right. But, a lot of people have got the feet in both sides here and looking to benefit from either or of the options.
Most definitely. Now, you and I talk about the benefits of HPC a lot on the channel, as we just did there, stabilizing revenue, forecasting predictable income streams that Wall Street analysts really think favorably of. But on the other side of the coin, Anthony, we've also talked about the fact that this is a brand new industry. A lot of people have compared AI to a bubble or the tech bubbles in 2000, saying, you know what, there's a lot of demand right now, but there's going to be more additional data centers, space, rack space coming online quickly here. So this article you actually sent over from Latent Space talks about exactly that, saying it used to cost upwards of $8 an hour to rent H100s. You can now get them for under $2 in a number of different areas available around the world. So do you think this is potentially a problem for these companies that are dedicating so much resource, time, energy, money towards HPC? Or does this simply make the case for the core scientific type of deal where you have reduced risk and just minimizing any exposure to this variable pricing?
I'm to be transparent. I'm a big fan of the core scientific deal, and the reason I'm a big fan of it is there's got very little risk in the deal. They don't have to buy any GPUs. They don't have to worry about how long the machines are going to last for. They don't even have to worry about the power to a certain extent because CoreWeave will initiate and agree a power with the power provider. So that contract is really, really good. When you've got other miners who are buying GPUs, so we know a lot of miners out there have gone and bought the H100s over the last sort of 12, 18 months. And we're now seeing IREN update to say they've gone and bought over 1,000 of the latest H200s, which probably is like less than or about 12 to 18 months since they bought the H100. So, how much return can you get? I mean, I remember we had Dan on the podcast, I think 2 years to recover the cost of the H100s, and then you start making margins in year three. How long will H200s last? And this is the issue now. There's people looking at this and saying, actually, is there a market there if you're going to do this yourself there? Are you going to get those types of revenues? I mean, I'm assuming if you've got the latest tier 3 data center, which is, perfect, and the power, you've got the 5 nines and everything ticks the box there, you can probably command, a better hourly fee. But bear in mind, some of these miners are using a sort of a hybrid facility in terms of, not a Bitcoin mining facility, not a tier 3, but probably somewhere in between those two there. And therefore, it's not costing them tens of millions of dollars per megawatt to produce it. I mean, I was, fortunate to go to Sweden recently and look at the Hive facility there, and they had GPUs, effectively in a sort of like in the same center as where they had Bitcoin miners. So it's, there was no differential towards the environment. I mean, the great thing about, Sweden is the cold weather. It takes away the heat, so they haven't got that sort of a major problem that they have in maybe Texas. So it works really well there. But they are going to sort of increase the HPC position in Sweden and move the miners to more profitable areas, because Sweden and some of these Scandinavian countries now are starting to tax the cost of energy a little bit more for miners. Whereas for HPC, it's still a profitable business. So, but yeah, in terms of facility or what some of these miners do, there is a question mark as to how long you can use older machines as more efficient machines come onto the market. And this is the same for Bitcoin mining. So, we've got some of the miners out there that are still using S19s, and we've got the likes of IREN, who've literally got a S21 Pro fleet in place, delivering, 16 a terahash. That's half of two of the miners on that are in our analysis. So, but how long do these machines last? I mean, it's not that long. IREN have only been a mining company for coming up to 3 years. About 3 years ago they went IPO. I think it was November 2021. So 3 years. So if you said we bought the S19s then, that's 3 years. And now and in less time than that, they've been replaced by XPs and now again by S21s. Is that the same impact for the likes of the GPUs as well? Are we going to see replacement machines happening quickly or quicker than expected? Time will tell. But I was quite shocked to see that the revenues had come down. I mean, to be honest with you, I think IREN said that they were getting something like $2.50, which is not like anywhere near the $7 or $8 that was in this article. So maybe they can still attract that type of revenue there, but they've already gone for the H200. So there's an indication as to, we'll find out from Dan on the next podcast, what drove him to go out and spend, tens of millions on getting that fleet upgrade to deliver more in the HPC market.
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess the $1 million question that we're all waiting to see. And as we say, Anthony, time will tell. But it is interesting to look at both sides of the equation here, specifically as it relates to the pure play mining, because the more resources obviously they dedicate to HPC, the less exposure to mining. With the Bitcoin price as volatile as it is, it can have a big outcome on revenue and business profile for these companies. Now, the last I guess interesting article that we wanted to talk about here today, Anthony, comes from DMG. We just had the team from DMG on and we gave them praise for really the diversity of scope within their business. So they've got their hands in a lot of different pies there. Sheldon and Steven are some of the OGs in the space. This was another interesting one that just came out talking about DMG partnering with the Malahat Nation to develop the first indigenous led AI data center project here in Canada. So another really interesting angle and a great example again of Bitcoin miners partnering with local communities.
Yeah, I mean, DMG don't follow the normal traditional route, looking at this from a social responsibility as well. It's collaboration, but they do things a lot differently than the miners. They do cover a lot of different bases. They're very much, diversified, probably more so than most of the miners in terms of the fact that not only are they a Bitcoin miner, they were previously a host miner. They build sites for other mining companies. They created the Mara pool for Marathon Digital. They've got their own Terra pool, which they want to use 100% renewable energy for that there, and they're also going to the carbon neutral transactions as well. And maybe there's a requirement for those people. We've heard over the years people want to be a lot more green in this space, and that message will simply come across. Whether it's got the demand for that type, and with everything you want to do something green, there's probably a little bit more of a premium involved there, and what people are willing to pay for a premium to deliver that, time will tell. But this is a great announcement today. What DMG will do is they'll develop their portion of the split at their Christina Lake facility, while the Malahat will focus on expanding their infrastructure on Vancouver Island. As DMG, both parties are really committed to using clean energy to deliver this. So that's important. So there, and let's see how this pans out, because 30 megawatts of HPC data center is a significant amount. If you had to put that into Bitcoin mining terms, you'd have to look at 10x of that. So that's 300 megawatts of Bitcoin mining power, effectively using utilizing HPC at 30 megawatts. So that's the sort of like the difference in types there. 30 might not sound a lot, but it's a significant amount of HPC.
Yeah, it's a sizable project, and obviously anytime you're working with First Nations or Indigenous, there's grants and there's potential optionality with government programs as well. So a great step, I think, from the social responsibility side of things, and also as a Canadian here to bring some data center capability within our own borders and within Canada. So a great move by DMG. Looking across the market, Anthony, the miners are continuing to move here. TeraWulf now up over 17% on the day to kick off the trading week. So let us know in the comment section below, you guys, do you think we were going to hit a new all-time high before the US election in a few weeks' time? If so, what do you think that high price will be? And of course, where you stack up in our Miner Madness competition. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.